Hello, good people of YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about submarine battles and how now they are on the live server. So some of you may be wondering, well, how do I get these submarines? And well, it's completely random. As you can see here in the armory, every day that you log in, you get one of these submarine tokens, which you can exchange for a random bundle, just like the current Soviet cruiser event. But you either get one bundle of 500 coal, or you get the 3 submarines. So, some people have expressed their opinions about it, and it is not exactly favorable in their minds. But I do think this is an okay way of doing it because, one, Wargaming obviously doesn't want 500 submarines in the queue, just like what happened on the PT server. And this gives them more of an organic, if you will, combination of ships in battle, because again, having 500 submarines in queue isn't likely going to happen once submarines come out and it's been 2-3 weeks after they've launched. Sure, there'll probably be a ton in queue the first couple of weeks or so, but then after that the numbers are going to decline because the hype dies down and the newness wears off. So they're obviously trying to simulate that environment rather than submarines being overrepresented in queue. So I think it's fine that they're doing it that way. And plus, you do get 3,000 coal just for showing up. So you get 500 coal every day for the duration of this event, which totals to around 3,000 coal, I think, or something like that. So you get free coal if just for doing. You don't have to participate in submarine battles. Just by cashing in your token, you get free coal, or you get the 3 submarines. And eventually, you will get the submarines. It's going to happen eventually. But I didn't get the submarines, and I wasn't that disappointed because I played them a lot on PT, and pretty much what we have today in Submarine Battles is the PT version. And I didn't expect that they were going to add anything new or anything like that in from the PT version to this version. It's pretty much the same. I think one or two statistics and figures have changed, but overall it's pretty much the same. And I gotta say, with only having so many submarines in queue and the maximum amount of submarines I've seen so far, and keep in mind I've only played for the first day, so obviously not a lot of people have submarines right now, so there is that. But I've only seen 2 subs on a side today, and I've played from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and now I'm recording this video. So I've only seen the maximum of 2 submarines per side. And I have to say, only having 4 submarines in a battle, I still was never bothered by them except for this match you're seeing right here. Now, again, it's the first day. People are getting their hands on these things for the first time. So there is that. And I have been playing exclusively battleships because I want to know what it's going to be like when these things go live, what's it going to be like for a battleship. And again, except for this match that you're watching right here, I was completely left alone. Be it because it's tier 6 and all the battleships, well, most of the battleships there are pretty slow, so you're normally stuck in the back of the pack for a while, and the submarines by that point, they don't have the patience, at least these players currently, they don't have the patience to go, sneak back behind everybody and, get at the battleships. Or what's likely happening, what I've been noticing, that they're dying in the first 10 minutes of the match because they get detected either through the hydrophone or by another submarine or some other way, and that they're usually dead in the first 10 minutes. And I've noticed you get those people, which I think those are the newer submarine players. And then you get the submarine players like the guy in this match who was very patient and waited for me to get at me. And then we have our submarine player, this legend, in the U-69. You'll see what he does later on, but it's pretty freaking epic, and I got a good chuckle out of it. But yeah, that's been my experience with subs thus far. And yeah, when the I believe it was a cachalot got me, yeah, it did kind of suck because you'll notice when it happens in game, he is using the homing torpedoes, but he didn't secure the second ping, so they weren't the magnetic torpedoes. But they were still homing torpedoes, and I'm in Warspite, and Warspite isn't the most maneuverable battleship ever, but it's not the most inmaneuverable battleship ever either. It's not fast, but it can turn pretty decently for a tier 6 battleship, and I had zero chance of dodging these torps. Now, I don't know from which position he launched it, but, and you can't, that's another thing too, you can't really tell with homing torps. Unless he launch it to you like dead on, then the torpedoes are going to try to go all the way around and hit and get at your side, because the torpedoes, when they're homing, they try to go for the center of the ship. So, you know, it's difficult to tell where they come from, again, unless they're really close and just launch it at you from your bow or stern. And, yeah, I had zero chance of dodging these torpedoes, and that's the thing that I think needs to change, especially with these homing torpedoes. I think their detection range really needs to be pretty significant as a trade-off for these things being homing, and to give the enemy ship, or whatever ship, you know, the ship being shot at, a chance to dodge them, because, you know, homing torpedoes, like, I get that they existed in World War II, but they were very late war, and I don't think they worked very well from what I've read. So, you know, it's kind of, that's a bit of a stretch wargaming. But, again, this is the only time I was bothered by submarines and playing for, you know, 4 or 5 hours. But what I did notice is this. There were barely any other battleships in queue and in game. In the match you're seeing now, there's 4 battleships in this game. And 2 of them are bots. There was me and the Warspite, and a rogue player, and an Ismail. Or Ismail, my bad. Rest of the battleships were bots. And I've been in games where it's just me, and the ships I was playing, by the way, was Warspite, Dunkirk, and PEF. So those are the 3 battleships I was bouncing back and forth between of, you know, a pretty maneuverable battleship with Dunkirk, fairly maneuverable battleship, but a quick battleship with PEF, and then Warspite, a slow but somewhat maneuverable battleship. And in all those matches that I played for 4 or 5 hours, I never had more than 4 battleships on the side. So, what this is telling me is that, and, you know, of course, people predicted this, and I did too, that the submarines are going to drop off the battleship population, especially right now, because there's no way for a battleship to counter a submarine. There's no way for a heavy cruiser to counter a submarine. There's no way for an aircraft carrier to counter a submarine. When they are below 6 meters, you cannot do anything to them. Unless you're a light destroyer or a destroyer with depth charges, there's zero counterplay to them. And I don't think that's fair. That's breaking the game pretty much. And I know in several posts and stuff, Workman has said, well, it's the light cruiser and the destroyer's job to hunt down these submarines, and that sounds nice, but it's not going to happen in game. It's not. Sure, they're going to go after them, yeah, but they're not going to stick with the battleships. They're not going to stick with the heavy cruisers. They're not going to stick. No one's going to stick with the aircraft carrier and babysit them all game, you know. So it's not fair gameplay-wise for 3 of the classes to have zero counterplay to these subs. And I know they've said that they're working on them, and I really hope that they do make some type of usable consumable or something to give these other classes a fighting chance against submarines. I read somewhere, I think it was in one of the patch notes, where the spotting plane for the battleships, and I'm assuming the heavy cruisers too, if it spots a submarine, it's going to orbit around it and keep it spotted. Like, yeah, that's great and all, but again, why not give every class that isn't a light cruiser or any class that doesn't have depth charges, why not give them an ASW plane consumable that calls in something like a Catalina, where, yeah, if it spots a submarine, it orbits around it, and let's say it drops 4 depth charges. I think that would solve a lot of issues, and that may be something that they're adding in. But I do hope that Wargaming sees this, and this has been my biggest takeaway. They see the significant drop in battleship population and realize that they need to give this class some type of really effective ASW equipment, be it the ASW plane, be it degaussing like I mentioned in my other submarine video, or just some way to counter these submarines. And it's not just the battleships, that's just the class that I played, and by far the biggest drop-off in-game in classes being represented, because there's still heavy cruisers in battle, there's still aircraft carriers in battle, and it's roughly the same amount as far as I can tell. But battleships, if you play any mid-tier game, there's 4 or 5 battleships aside, so there's like 10 or 8 battleships in game in total. That population has been cut into half as far as I can tell, with this event. And keep in mind, the 4 battleships that are in this video, half of them are bots. So if they wasn't for those bots, there would be 2 battleships in this match. And that's been most of my matches. So yeah, it's safe to say that if subs come out like they do in their current state, it's going to murder the battleship population. Not in-game sinking them, just no one's going to want to play battleships. And I can't blame them, especially if there's no counterplay. Like I mentioned in the last submarine video and in the our battleships dying video, that if there's not some type of effective way for battleships to counter submarines, they're done. The class is done. It's going to become a dying class, just like the CVs were before the CV rework. Whether or not you like the CV rework or not, the CV was a dying class before. So that's my biggest takeaway from the sub battle so far. And again, it is the first day, so are the battleship players playing submarines right now? I doubt that. They're probably switching over to heavy cruisers and light cruisers because they can. Well, the heavy cruisers can't, but the light cruisers have a better chance of. The heavy cruisers have a better chance of dodging the torpedoes because they are more maneuverable, and of course, light cruisers and destroyers can actually counter the submarines. But again, if this rework goes live as is, which I don't think it will, because Wargaming has set, and again, they've said they're working on ways for battleships, carriers, and heavy cruisers to counter submarines. But did they mean that it's just going to be the spotting plane orbiting around the submarine? Because that is some weak countering for submarines. Because submarines, they can be spotted half the time, but if they're below 6 meters, if you're not in a light cruiser with depth charges or a destroyer with depth charges, you can't touch them. It doesn't matter if they're spotted or not. You can't do anything. And I just really hope that they do get these countermeasures up as soon as they can, or at least tell us what they're working on. That way it can put some of our minds at ease, because again, I did say in the last submarine video that we should probably all calm down a little bit, but you know, it would help to calm people down, Wargaming, if you would say exactly what you're working on to give these classes a chance to counter these submarines, because right now it's going to be a disaster if you launch it like this. But that's still a long way away, so take that with a grain of salt. And that is what I can gather from this first round of submarine battles. And again, submarine population right now, it's pretty low. I think we'll get a more organic idea of what the sub population will be maybe like 3 days from now, when more people have had a chance to get their hands on the 3 subs. And then we'll probably see about, I think it's going to be a steady 2 submarines per side once that happens. So, you know, again, that's the numbers that I said I would think would be about the natural numbers for submarines and random battles, and we'll get a better idea of what that's going to be like, especially once people get an idea of how exactly to play them and how to play them once that happens. But anyway, guys, this is my first impressions for the first day of submarine battles. Let me know what your experience has been like if you've been playing sub battles, or let me know if you're just avoiding it altogether, because fair enough on you for that. So anyway, guys, hope you have a great day. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. We are on our way to 15,000 subscribers. We recently passed 11,700, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.